I can back that Robert Munsch is a wonderful author, so if you have children, even if you are in the US, I'm sure Amazon can help you out there. Okay, I have a very short report, because I do know that I'm always the one between you and planes and other meetings and such. So I just try and sum up a little bit about some of the stuff you've hopefully heard over the last few weeks. Days. As a general rule, what have we been up to? This is the high level of some of the things that we've been going. Obviously, you heard earlier about the RPKI TAL. We've been working on various reformations of committees, the policy actions that we had. We have been working with the CEO and management to bring on a CFO. As you heard, we've had a bit of an issue, but we will continue on that. And we have been dealing mostly our strategic planning and budgeting, which is kind of what I'll take a second just to talk about. We have been doing a lot of focus on strategy this year, both just in trying to evolve the board as the organization has evolved and matured, so the board is quite focused on strategy. And we've been doing a lot of administrative and more items to try and do this. We've moved a bunch of work items that used to be in our bucket. One that just comes to mind is the fellowship committee, where that just seemed more like an operational thing, and we've moved that to be a staff function, for instance, because that didn't really, other than we want to understand the success of the programs as a whole and the resources are being used efficiently, that didn't seem to be one of the things that the board needs to get in the middle of. We're starting to move to a more year-round strategy planning process. We're just in the final throes of a 3-year strategic plan, the first in some time that we've done a 3-year strategic plan, and it's been an interesting process because not only have we been making that plan, we've been evolving a process to make that plan a little bit on the go. And hopefully this will be the process which we hope to publish going forward on how we will be doing strategic planning, of which our hope is that we can get feedback from you. Obviously, this community is never shy on telling us what they think, but we are trying to make sure that there's a more formal process, at least as it relates to our strategic planning process. And we've done a few other things, like, for instance, you might have noticed that we're a little more around, except me, of course, this during the last 2 days, as opposed to these meetings throughout every meal break we actually now are taking a full day every time in both April and October. Still tweaking it a bit because October became a bit of a challenge, obviously, with NANOG, but our hope is that we're spending quite a bit of our time in person and always trying to move forward the strategy process and tying that in with the operating and budget. We've been doing a bit of governance work over the past few years as well. I just thought, just to highlight kind of some of the stuff we've done, again, just looking at how the organization has evolved. So it started as early as a few years ago, is that we actually started stuff such as putting a formal director orientation process. And that was actually an interesting process because that actually required, and I thank John for most of that, is he had to go through 20 years of documents and such and put it all together, because if you bring in a new board member and you want to bring them up to speed, this can be, death by fire hose, effectively. So we've tried to take all that information and put together and distill so that directors will be, if they were newly elected, would have that more formal onboarding and have access to a much cleaner set of documentation. Last year we worked on, again, trying to actually formalize what the job actually entailed from our perspective. So we published what we called our expected qualifications and responsibilities, because we got a lot of questions about what does actually you guys do, how are the meetings structured, what's the time commitment. So we published that last year. This year has been fairly busy. We spent much of the first part of this year harmonizing the election procedures, which of course are spread across 3 documents: the bylaws, which we didn't touch, an election procedure document, which is reasonably new, and the nom-com charter. So we've tried to make them consistent. First of all, there was just minor inconsistencies in terms, so we tried to clean that up because that's obviously good as that, and we tried to streamline the process quite a bit. As part of that, we also committed to publishing a letter to the nomination committee detailing what kind of gaps and any guidance we had. Typically, we'd put maybe a 1 sentence at the end of the nom-com charter previously, and we were told that was maybe not enough. So there's a great document. And as part of our transparency, even though it's to the nom-com, it has been, since we submitted to them, available for you. So if you wish, you might want to have a thing. If you go to arin.net/elections, it's right there, or you can go and click on the link later. And of course, we always look for feedback on that. And lastly, we're going to be spending, we've just spent actually some time this meeting, and we'll be for the year doing a much more holistic look. Much of this has been trying to just clean up the house, but we've actually brought in some outside help. You know, the corporate governance is a well-studied, well-established subject. We brought in some expertise just to kind of look at the whole process and the organization and see are there better ways that we can govern ourselves from an organization. So we're going to be working that as a board for the rest of the year. So that's me report, but I would like to, of course, take a moment to say some thank yous for service to the organization. Many of these you've already seen. First, I'd like to thank Rahini Fraser. She served a one-year appointment to the board. She will be leaving us in December, but she has been a contributor to the board over the last year, and I'd just like to ask the community to thank her for taking the time. As Tina mentioned, David Farmer is leaving us after 11 years of service on the advisory council. David's been great to work with you over these years. I'm glad to hear you're going to still be in the community, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you again for your service as well. My excuse for the last one is why I wasn't here yesterday, so I think it would only be fair for us to give one more thank you to Susan Hamlin for almost 20 years of service. Susan has put up with me for many of those years and my antics, so Susan, I personally thank you for all your work and effort. On behalf of the board as well, I'd like to thank you for your service and hope you enjoy your retirement in the year. So one more time for Susan Hamlin. And let me tell you, sometimes they were antics. Moving right along. I would just like to finish off by encouraging you, of course, to take the time to vote. Please vote. Vote as often as you are allowed. Vote early so that you don't forget. But please take some time, review all the candidate materials, the speeches, all the background materials. Please, it's very important. This organization can only succeed if members take the time to give this very, very important duty. And with that, I will take any questions on my report, and if it's okay, I will also just take open microphones since they tend to be the same thing.